The guy who has praised Epstein for his childlike curiosity and let his daughter go on vacation with Ghislaine Maxwell, even though he knew that he was a sex offender. If this dude would have gotten the same from his mirror opposite but worse person, Donald Graham Butter hoo-ha Trump, then it's over. Disastrous revelations from the new Epstein files. This is a video by echelon, and that's something that we're going to be watching today. And I know that some of you are likely already asking, why do you care? Why so political? I don't know why you would say it like the Joker, but there's a clear answer to this. And also to the question of why is there so many people have gotten so political over the years. The truth is, you might not want to fuck with politics, but politics would definitely fuck with you. And as an adult, or even an adolescent with somewhat of an open mind, you have got to equip yourself, and preferably with an umbrella against misinformation, as some will eventually come and abuse that innocence of yours, piss on your face, calling it rain. And matter of fact, they will not just do that, they'll be pissing in your face and calling it piss. Then we'll ask you, what are you gonna do about it? Because frankly, that is the best analogy that I can come up with regards to the Epstein files. It is extremely disturbing. The thing is, you don't need to be a parent or have a child to care about these type of things. It is insane to even have to clarify why this is important, because I made a video about the Epstein files some months ago and why I hated the conflation with conspiracy theories that some people across the political spectrum were doubting, because this is not Pizzagate here. It's something with so much solid ground that even the people who have a tendency of flip-flopping for a living couldn't help themselves from talking about it. Like, for example, here's a subject of South Park's fascination, the man of a thousand faces, J.D. Vance, in September of 2021, saying, "Remember when we learned that our wealthiest and most powerful people were connected to a guy who ran a literal child sex trafficking ring, and then that guy died mysteriously in a jail, and now we don't talk about it?" That last part was Emo Vance talking.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Yeah, JD, where's the Epstein files? Well, we all know where the Epstein files were. They were always in the possession of the powerful. The sitting administration had them. They ran on it. They had photo ops with it. And Pam, I'ma go against your freedom of speech Bondi, even said that they were sitting on her desk.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
And now, as they got pressured to release them, it suddenly became a hoax.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net.
We had people running the fence for them.
He killed himself. You want me to get, I've seen the whole file.
The Epstein files. What's the answer to that?
The answer to that is the same as everything else. I'm not going to withhold information from the American public ever, but I'm also not going to rush to get it out there in a format in which they can't rely on it.
And as of this recent episode, we have literal people who have been arguing, like, what is the name of that media host? Megyn Kelly, who, by the way, I mentioned the whole Pam Bondi going against the freedom of speech. Even she was like, hey, you can't say something as stupid as that, Pam Bondi.
And speaking of prosecutors who say or do dumb things and get themselves in trouble, we got to discuss Pam Bondi. All the guys are shaking their heads no right now.
But today we have this literal person here who was arguing about how an acquaintance of her was pointing out the difference, the simple fact that Trump or whomever was engaged with Epstein's were not actual pedophiles, because the people involved were like 15-year-olds, but not 8.
Virtually everything. Not everything, but virtually everything. And this person has told me from the start, years and years ago, that Jeffrey Epstein, in this person's view, was not a This is this person's view, who was there for a lot of this, but that he was into the barely legal type. Like, he liked 15-year-old girls. and I realize this is disgusting. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you facts. That he wasn't into like 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types that could pass for even younger than they were, but would look legal.
What the fuck is this?
As I said before, you don't need to be a parent to be appalled by statements like that. But I've got to say this, ma'am. It is not the age that people are arguing about here. It's the fact that you even have to point that out that is fucked up. But hey, there's an entire lore about this that is so dumb and dark that it will make the writers of Naked Gun get like an aneurysm. But what is important for you to know is that regarding today's video, as a bit of a preamble here, after the government shutdown, where some spineless Democrat who will not be running for re-election decided to punish Americans across the political aisle by caving in to reopen the government and thus contributing into rising the healthcare cost, the sitting administration should have rejoiced for finally getting their ways until some Epstein emails were leaked, which of course frustrated the Orange Man, and so to run cover for him, his friends at the administration released thousands more. I guess in the way for them of being like, hey, look, it's not just Trump, but I guess that they didn't realize that that was kind of dumb on their part. It was making them not just look stupid but also very dishonest, which in turn put them in a situation like this one where everybody's now scrutinizing and going into depths to find out what the f was going on. Anyways, this is Upper Echelon explaining some of the worst mails here.
All right. Today I want to go over the 20,000 emails that were recently subpoenaed and released from the Epstein estate.
20,000, by the way. They were just like, hey, you know what? Fuck it, let's flood the airway.
Because everyone is talking about this right now, with good reason. And I want to pick out the 21 most interesting, damaging, and shocking revelations because the story of Jeffrey Epstein, his ties to Donald Trump, his level of global influence, and the implications it all has for the country and the world, has now been blown wide open. Let me start off a little bit differently here. Rather than simply diving in right away, I want to begin with a sort of index glossary of names. There's a pretty hefty number of people that we need to be familiar with before comprehending these emails. So at the very start, right now, I want to go through one by one and explain who these people are, so that if at any point someone doesn't remember or I say a name that they don't recall or aren't familiar with, they can come back to the beginning and find out who that person is, why they matter, etc. Here we go. First, obviously, is Jeffrey Epstein, financier, trafficker, well-connected socialite, and the main subject of the video. He was arrested in 2006, again in 2019, and he died under suspect circumstances in 2020.
Excuse me. Only just convicted in 2008, despite the many victims who came forth to testify against him, and he was only found guilty of the lightest charges, and even worse, was given a plea deal that allowed him to get visits and live a quite extravagant life, in a similar manner that I guess his partner in crime, Ghislaine Maxwell, is doing right now.
No more, there's a bunch of prior videos in a playlist down below, but yeah, I'm sure pretty much everyone is already familiar with who he is. Next is Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell was Epstein's right-hand woman, if you will. She helped facilitate all of his activities, participated directly in the trafficking and the abuse, resulting in a conviction. But after a special interview with the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, she was moved to a minimum security holding facility with special treatment as well, and is now allegedly seeking clemency from President Donald Trump. Obviously, logically, Donald Trump is next. Pretty sure everyone already knows who he is. But his wife, Melania, is also a kind of important figure because she's currently embroiled in a potential lawsuit with an author named Michael Wolff after threatening him with a $1 billion defamation suit in an effort to force retractions on some of the claims that he made about her and Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, here we go. Michael Wolff, the journalist who supposedly, not supposedly, with quite a lot of evidence actually, was running kind of cover for Epstein, somewhat of an advisor, but was also seen to be as like a critic because he had ties to the man, was providing information to the public about him. So weird. He kind of used his journalist status to make people see him as a journalist who was going for the truth, the hard-hitting pieces, but was sending weird conversation and covering for the guy and trying to give him opportunities.
Michael Wolff, as we just said, an author who wrote extensively about Epstein and conducted a number of interviews with him, supposedly something like 100 hours of footage, is a journalist and author closely connected to the Epstein story, who has not only made explosive claims about things he allegedly saw, but also embedded himself in the controversy by targeting President Trump repeatedly. Moving on, we have Landon Thomas Jr., a New York Times journalist who is also relevant to the situation, highly. But I also think it's worth mentioning that from 1994 to 1998, Landon Thomas was an asset manager at Morgan Stanley. He's not just a journalist, he's also a finance guy. Next up is Steve Bannon.
Morgan Stanley, for those who've watched my video on Epstein, Epstein had quite the weird rise in position, despite him not exactly having any credentials in financing, but somehow became an advisor for some of the richest people in the world and made it to quite the weird positions.
Former chief strategist at the White House during the first 7 months of Trump's 2016 presidency, which is very important.
And it's
then we have
now
Catherine Rumler, former White House counsel to Barack Obama, 2011 to 2014.
Yeah.
And Larry Summers, former Secretary of the Treasury, Director of the Economic Council, and close personal friend of Jeffrey Epstein.
Ugh.
Still not done. There's Bill Clinton,
of course,
former president, Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, and then Linda Stone, who is a former Apple and Microsoft executive who reportedly idolized Epstein. Her name comes up in the emails as well. Almost done. Last 3 names. Tom Barrack or Barrick, I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Barrick,
private equity
yeah.
and real estate guy who's done extensive fundraising for President Trump, also serving as the senior advisor on the 2016 Trump presidential campaign, chairman of his inaugural committee, and now current United States ambassador to Turkey. There's Vitaly Churkin, former Russian ambassador to the United States.
Oh, yeah, that's
and
true.
lastly, Thorbjorn Jagland,
Yeah, was
Prime Minister of Norway,
Norway,
Secretary General of the Council of Europe. There's a few more names here and there, but those are the ones that we need to fully understand, because the 21 most interesting or damaging emails specifically refer to, come from, or are exchanged with one of these people. With that fully out of the way, let's dive right in. 20,000 emails have been released by House Democrats and House Republicans, in a complete mess, by the way. The formatting is terrible. It's just, they're all over the place. But those emails are now being dissected by the internet at large. Thankfully, there is a searchable database that was put together by Courier, which I'll link down below for anyone interested. So the process of finding and sorting out relevant versus irrelevant emails becomes much, much easier. And after doing precisely
all those
that,
files before,
these are the top 21 things
they
that
try
I
to
believe
shut
are most
them down.
interesting, damaging, and shocking from all of them. Here we go. Number 21. This is an email from Jeffrey Epstein to Landon Thomas Jr., New York Times journalist, in 2015, after Landon Thomas said that everyone was coming to him thinking that he had juicy info on Epstein and Trump. Quote, read the BuzzFeed Read My Airplane Logs and Hawaiian Tropic contest, / have them ask my houseman about Donald almost walking through the door, leaving his nose print on the glass as young women were swimming in the pool, and he was so focused he walked straight into the door.
Like a freaking animal. Ugh. Can you imagine that? Well, it's not difficult to imagine the man who, so obviously, had quite a reputation with women, and not a positive one, would be acting this way.
End quote. Not the most salacious thing in the world, to be honest, distracted by young women in a pool, but I figure we might as well start slow at the beginning.
Sure.
Number 20. Contained in the very same email thread about how people assumed there was juicy info, Epstein also says, quote, would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen? End quote. Still nothing explicitly wrong with that per se, but certainly a step up in severity. That is, Epstein offering ambiguous or potentially compromising photos of Trump to a reporter. Number 19. This is where things get much more complicated. Donald Trump has long maintained that he split away from Jeffrey Epstein entirely in the early 2000s. There's been multiple contradicting reasons directly cited for that breakup, let's call it, but all of them occur between 2004 and 2007. At least that's what we've been told.
Well, yeah.
An email thread from an unknown redacted sender as of 2017. A visitor was on their way to Epstein's house, notably the second floor of Epstein's house, which is where prominent victim Virginia Giuffre specifically indicated the massage tables were, and the bedrooms with cameras were documented in evidence photographs. aka the place where abuse occurred.
By the way, it's important to note that Virginia Giuffre was the girl who has been seen in photos with Prince Andrew, the guy who apparently does not sweat.
Problem with the sweating, because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time.
And she had accused Epstein, obviously, but one of the reasons why she's sometimes even brought up by conservatives is that she never implicated Trump himself.
This unknown person went to meet him as part of an exchange where they ask for a door code, while Epstein says that the house is more private for a meeting. And then suddenly, quote, "I'm at the door, but I will wait for my time. I don't want to come early to find Trump in your house," end quote. And keep in mind, this is 2017, nearly a decade after the two had supposedly parted ways.
It's important to note here, like, I don't know how many of you are in tune with this story, but like in the early weeks of 2003, there were like dozens of the world's most prominent figures who took time in their day to write a warm birthday note for their friends who was turning 50. Ghislaine Maxwell, of course the broker of said friend, decided to turn to the inner circles of elite confidants to connect a little book, a birthday book, where they will send their hearts and best wishes. This, of course, the little black book that some of you may have heard about. And that is in 2003, at around the time where Epstein should have been cutting off his friendship with Trump. Well, according to the Orange Man himself. But after his arrest in 2008, there were still a lot of contacts with these people. Notably, as I said before, with the beautiful plea deal that he got, he was still being visited by prominent figures. But most interesting here, as of the end of the summer, right, in August of this year, the New York Times released an article, or was it like, it wasn't an opinion piece, it was straight up like an article with proof and pictures and everything, that actually saw notes about a new black book that was being written, a new birthday one for his 63rd birthday, for which apparently they might be doing this just regularly. So 13 years afterwards, 8 years after his second arrest, where they will still write to the man. Like, what in the actual fuck? And guess what? They still included this man, Trump that is.
Number 18. This is an exchange allegedly between Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein. Reading, quote, from Epstein, "Prince Andrew and Trump today. Too funny." Bannon, "Recall Prince Andrew's accuser came from Mar-a-Lago." Further down, "Can't
Virginia.
believe no one is making you the connective tissue," referring to Epstein. To which Epstein then replies, "F and B only," end quote. Seemingly speaking in code, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what to make of that one, but I certainly thought it was interesting. Number 17. This is an exchange between Kathy Rumler, former White House counsel to Barack Obama, and Jeffrey Epstein in 2014. Quote from Epstein, "You need to talk to boss," Rumler responds. "Agreed, but I need to be prepared to say yes before I talk to him." Epstein again, "Understood. It comes down to high risk/reward, low risk/reward, professional, emotional, and financial."
What?
After which Rumler responds, "Most girls do not have to worry about this crap." Epstein says, "Girls, careful, I will renew an old habit." After which he lists off some of the world's most powerful businessmen and politicians, saying, "You are a welcome guest at any. Also, if you think there are interesting people in town, everyone here for Climate Summit, Clinton, Security Council, holy shit, I'm on or next 30 minutes.
Jesus fucking Christ. Bill Clinton, the guy with the crazy style, went on this insane tour where he and Epstein were supposed to be curing AIDS and spreading awareness or whatever, which is weird coming from a sexual offender. And through his connections with Epstein, he formed this climate summit alongside Hillary Clinton, where actually Ghislaine Maxwell was one of the biggest donors that they had to not just that, but also to some like ocean conservation. Because of course, evil people always has this weird thing about them that is kind of, I don't know, appreciative, from Putin liking dogs a lot, even the angry mustache model supposedly not drinking, which as twisted as it sounds, can be found admirable, but Ghislaine the trafficker caring for the oceans. But yeah, I guess through that they had their fundraisers and thus they created connections with other powerful people.
One thing I should mention right now before going further, these emails are absolutely full of typos. Epstein and multiple of the people that he regularly corresponded with had precisely zero regard for proper
Illiterates.
grammar. So if it sounds like near gibberish at times, that's just what the emails look like. Anyway, careful, I might renew an old habit in reference to girls is certainly a little bit suspect when it comes to the most prolific abuser in human history. Number 16. This is another exchange between Rumler and Epstein on a thread titled Donald Trump's High Crimes and Misdemeanors. Rumler says, quote, "It makes no difference whether it was his money. Issue is failure to disclose. Plus, fact that he has lied his ass off about it makes clear that he knew it was illegal." To which Epstein responds, "You see, I know how dirty Donald is. My guess is that non-lawyers, New York biz people have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip." End quote.
Oh my God, this is in 2018, by the way. This is way in his presidency because he was in power by what? January 20th of 2017. That's how it goes, right? The election happens in November, gets in power in January the next year. So from January 20th, 2017 till 2021.
That particular thread is probably about the criminal cases that Trump faced in New York, presumably.
Right.
But the idea of Jeffrey Epstein saying, "I know how dirty Donald is," should make even the most devout supporters raise an eyebrow. Just to
when the most prevalent sexual offender, an actual predator, dude that makes R. Kelly look like he's... Fuck. Oh, I messed up on the perfect opportunity of Megyn Kelly making an R. Kelly response. Damn.
Like teenage girls. When you say teenage, how old are we talking?
The very young teen types that could pass for even younger than they were, but would look legal to a passerby.
Anyways, when somebody who makes R. Kelly look tame tells you that you are evil, shit, or dirty, then I don't know, man.
For that point home, number 15
got to reevaluate.
Larry Summers and Jeffrey Epstein, in which Epstein says, quote, "Recall I've told you I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, not one decent cell in his body. So yes, dangerous," end quote.
Dang.
Ideally, at this point, the gravity of the situation is beginning to present itself, but we are truly, genuinely only just beginning to scratch the surface of how bad this is getting. Number 14. This is another chain between Epstein and a redacted correspondent, which says, quote, "It will all blow over. They're really just trying to take down Trump and doing whatever they can to do that." To which Epstein replies, "It's wild because I am the one able to take him down," end quote. Let me pose a question here. Why is it that Epstein, at the end of 2018, shortly before he was arrested the second time and then died under suspect circumstances, why is it that he's explicitly saying, "I'm the one able to take him down," about the sitting president of the goddamn country? Just food for thought. Now for an even crazier one. Number 13. How many people remember this right here?
Oh yeah, I remember this painting. This was fucking weird. It was made by an Australian painter. Again, I've looked into this case. Here she is, Petrina Ryan Clyde. The artist who painted Jeffrey Epstein's portrait of Bill Clinton in a dress tells us why she made it. From what I remember, it was with regards to Monica Lewinsky, as an attempt to kind of make fun of that, but she didn't understand the gravity of what she was doing necessarily, because what does she say here? Today, Clyde says that she actually feels bad about the content of the painting since I'm Australian and wasn't then, nor am I now, partisan about American politics. She writes, "At the time, most of my ideas were fresh from The Daily Show or from Australian TV," as she will write, cite later here. Oh yeah, that's true. She also made the one with George Bush about the airplanes called the War Game. The one where he's sitting on the ground, right? Where is it? There. Is it? Do we have an enhanced version of it? Let me just zoom in. Yeah, this one. I don't know what the hell this is, but you get the gist of it. But she says here, it was just a silly school artwork that was supposed to show pictorially the messages we are bombarded with in regards to these presidents. She confirmed that the blue dress is in reference to Monica Lewinsky's blue dress, a prominent piece of evidence in Clinton's affair with the former intern. But yeah, Epstein had this thing hanging in his house.
The weird Bill Clinton painting that Epstein had with a blue dress and red high heels. Anyone? Okay, well, keeping in mind that this painting was owned by Epstein and hanging in his Manhattan home, let's take a look at this particular email thread between Jeffrey Epstein and Mark Epstein, his brother, in 2018, which says, quote, "How are you doing? All good, Bannon with me. Ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. And I thought I had Cyrus. You and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard. I mean, Donnie T." End quote. For the sake of clarity right now, just in case anybody didn't pick up on this, he doesn't say if Putin has photos. He says if Putin has the photos, implying their definitive existence. And Bubba, by the way, is one of Bill Clinton's nicknames. I have absolutely no idea what these emails actually mean, but I can certainly see why the Trump administration is so very desperate to stop the release of the Epstein files.
Bro, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. This is not 2022, okay? This is not a situation where we're seeing Trump and Elon or GGT sucking his feet or whatever, where there are literally deepfakes and stuff. Could that be Photoshop work? Definitely. The fact that a 42nd Commander-in-Chief of the United States, the epic sax guy, he who is the reason why the trade is so messed up in the US due to the lack of regulation of NAFTA, and of course the US Open, whose presidency got ruined because he couldn't help himself from getting the GAG 9000 from Monica Lewinsky, and who inevitably ruined her reputation because of how it was immortalized through rap lyrics. Was that enough of a descriptor? The guy who has praised Epstein for his childlike curiosity and let his daughter go on vacation with Ghislaine Maxwell, even though he knew that he was a sex offender. If this dude would have gotten the same from his mirror opposite but worse person, Donald Graham Bader hoo-ha Trump, ladies and gentlemen, if his presidency ends because of a blowy, then it's over. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if his presidency ends, it's Jova, it's by done. The ridiculousness of America will never recover from this.
This is a nightmare for them. Number 12, a simple
insane.
email from Michael Wolff, quote, "There's an opportunity to come forward this week and talk about Trump in such a way that could garner you great sympathy and help finish him. Interested?" End quote. Number 11. This one is with Linda Stone in September of 2015 and says, quote, "Wondering if the fact that so many people are on antidepressant, ADHD, and other drugs is what makes Trump appealing and his flaws invisible. Will you have a cabinet position?" She's asking Jeffrey Epstein if he'll have a cabinet position with Trump.
In 2016. By September 2016. That's on the way to the election.
In 2015. After which she also says, "Do you think he can win? Speak, please. What do you think?" To which he replies, "Too far to tell. We will know much more come October 15th. But then, after she asks, "You still in Paris?" Epstein says, "Trump Tower." Keep in mind, we have been repeatedly told to believe that the two separated completely sometime in the early 2000s. But if that's true, why would Epstein's close friend be asking him whether or not he'll have a cabinet position while he stays at Trump Tower? Number 10. This exchange is between a Qatari businessman, I believe, named Jabor Y, and Epstein, where he says, quote, "In Paris today, headed for New York. Trump gives many new things to do." End quote. Once again, casting a very long, very deep shadow over the idea that these two men parted ways a decade earlier and never spoke again. There's a lot of corroboration that that tale, that story, that talking point that they've been giving for like 20 years is not true. Number 9. Once again, Epstein and this Jabor Y person, quote, "Sorry, I just checked your email. What time you will leave to the airport? I hope you are in a better place now than New York. Sorry, yes, Palm Beach, all Trump people here." End quote. Again, 2016,
What?
all Trump people in Palm Beach.
In December.
But somehow the president knows nothing about him and never spoke to him since 2004. None of it adds up. Number 8. This is between Epstein and Tom Barrack or Tom Barack, whatever.
Yeah, that guy from...
Closely connected fundraiser and senior advisor to Trump's campaign. Just keep that in mind. This thread is from 2016. Quote, "Hope you are well. Photos look good. FYI, I receive many calls a week about both Donald, beauty contest, Mar-a-Lago, etc., and Clinton from reporters. Less so recently with Clinton, but my answers are always, I have nothing to say, or I try to ignore altogether."
Wayne, is this D. Clinton or his wife? Because she was implicated as well. She supposedly had an affair with somebody from like either news or some administration who ended up dead. So get them all, please.
A few times I've been ambushed on the street with questions, but I am more careful now. Followed by, "Send photos of you and child. Make me smile." Sure, that could be innocent. Send a few wholesome family photographs, but A, this is Jeffrey Epstein that we're talking about.
The word child should not be associated with him at all, ever.
Epstein refusing to answer incriminating questions between him and Trump's own senior advisor in 2016. 7. Good old Landon Thomas comes back around here with an email exchange that appears to be warning Epstein, reading, quote, "He is digging around again. Not clear if it's another book or expanded paperback version. Was asking me all sorts of questions about why you hired Ken Starr. I told him I had no idea. I think he is doing some Trump-related digging too. Anyway, for what it's worth." End quote. Why on earth is a New York Times journalist warning Jeffrey Epstein and giving him a heads up that someone is looking into him and Trump?
Right.
Why is that happening? And why is that happening at that time during that year?
2017.
Number 6. Landon Thomas to Jeffrey Epstein, quote, "He is scaring the shit out of me now. He could well tank the global economy. Can Barack talk sense to him anymore? Maybe it's time for you to jump in now. Given how he is throwing caution to the wind in such epic fashion, why wouldn't he take
Talking
your
about
call?
Trump, of course.
Give it a shot." To which Epstein replies, "He feels alone and is nuts. I told everyone from day one, evil beyond belief mad, and most thought I was speaking metaphorically. It's obvious he could crack. Stormy Daniels, lies after lies after lies."
Oh,
the
wow.
world's most notorious sex trafficker, okay, directly referring to the sitting president.
Evil beyond belief.
Evil beyond belief.
Dude, this is not even like the this is not the pot calling the kettle black. This is the pot saying that you have never been washed ever. You have been down hell, made it all the way back. Even the devil said, "What the f is wrong with you?" Evil beyond belief coming from him? What?
Number 5. Inexplicably, apparently emailed to himself from another account he controlled, Epstein sends a very long list of names. Rothschild, Rumler, Churkin, Schumer, Rockefeller, some names we know, some names we don't, across a wide range of political affiliations and business sectors. But that email is titled List for Bannon Steve, and it was sent in June of 2019. 1 month later, Epstein faced his second arrest.
And Steve Bannon, by the way, is the guy who stated that if they lose, if Trump doesn't make it or if their administration doesn't make it to 2028, they definitely will be going to jail.
I will tell you right now, as God is my witness, if we lose the midterms and we lose 2028, some in this room are going to prison, myself included.
I don't know all the people that are on it, right? I don't recognize all of these names, but I can tell you that this is a tiny little fraction of the files that are being withheld from the public.
Chuck Schumer?
And that the level of discrepancy between what we now see in black and white correspondence versus what the current administration has been incessantly claiming is unignorable. They are not telling the truth. Number 4. Now for some of the most damning things, okay? In a 2018 email thread between Epstein and Thorbjorn Jagland, we can see, quote, "I think you might suggest to Putin that Lavrov can get insight on talking to me. Vitaly Churkin used to, but he died." After which Epstein continues later, Churkin was great. He understood Trump after our conversations. It's not complex. He must be seen to get something. It's that simple, end quote. Let's get something straight right now, okay? This is email evidence in 2018 of Jeffrey Epstein, who has repeatedly claimed explicitly to hold compromising information about sitting President Donald Trump, talking to the former Norwegian prime minister and saying that he coached Russia on how to handle Donald Trump. I don't care who you are or what politics or loyalty or
this is concerning.
That's a fucking problem. Number 3. These last 3 are some of the most common. They're the ones that mainstream media have been fixating on, I guess, the most. But there's a very good reason for that. From Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, quote, I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Virginia spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. To which Maxwell replies, I've been thinking about that, end quote. Number 2, email to Michael Wolff, quote, blank, Virginia Giuffre, we know that because of context now, blank worked at Mar-a-Lago. She was the one that accused Prince Andrew. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls, as he asked Ghislaine to stop, end quote. And then lastly, number 1, the big cheese, from Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein at the end of 2015, quote, I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards. Epstein replies, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Why the fuck would they be able to craft an answer for him is the real question. And then finally, quote, I think you should let him hang himself if he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the House, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or so if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and he's gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime, end quote. Those 21 emails, okay, I'll just let people kind of mull over and unpack those for themselves. Those 21 emails, although in proper context, I am absolutely positive that there's more.
There's more, of course.
The rest of the files that are being suppressed and withheld, but by this overtly corrupt administration. Those 21 email threads, let's call them, are the notable standouts of the latest Epstein document release that I saw. And if you go back across the saga thus far, these emails make it abundantly clear, overwhelmingly clear, that pretty much everyone involved has been lying through their teeth the entire time, and that the truth is absolutely horrific for Donald Trump. Like I said before, this is a developing story across many months that I'll talk about.
We can't know for certain, with 100% certainty, but what we got so far is bloody insane. Like, we're going to be seeing some of the weirdest way of dodging this that has ever been seen. That secretary who tends to do the speeches at the White House there for the announcement, she's going to do the weirdest dodges.
So this administration has done more than any, and it just shows how this is truly a manufactured hoax by the Democrat Party. For now they're talking about it all of a sudden.
And it wouldn't even surprise me if DJT himself started blaming even his own sons for this. Like, he's gonna be like, hey, it says Trump, right? It refers to him, but it could be Don Jr. It is going to be insane. But in any of the circumstances, I want you to remember that anybody who is succinctly deconstructing all of these files are not insane and don't want to binge themselves. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for checking out this video. As always, give me an interaction if you found this informative and or entertaining. And of course, check out Upper Echelon here for more on these stories. Anyways, we shall have a wonderful day. See you guys in the next one. Bye.